Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. But a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah, it's a great moment for us. It's a historical moment for Bangladesh and also for the people of Bangladesh that for the first time ever, we are having an exclusive interactive session with none other than Ustad Nouman Ali Khan, the world-famous Islamic speaker, motivational personality, and he has agreed to give some exclusive time with us for the first time for the young generation of Bangladesh. So it's a proud moment for the youth of Bangladesh. It's a proud moment for university scholars that we have got the opportunity to host such an amazing interactive session with Ustad Nouman Ali Khan. So first of all, I would like to welcome our guest, our speaker for today's session, Ustad Nouman Ali Khan. Sir, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And welcome.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor to have this opportunity. I'm very excited to interact with the students.
Okay. And probably you would be happy to see that we have got some audience from different parts of the country, from different universities of Bangladesh, including college students, including recent graduates who have traveled far and who are also very excited to join the event of today. So they are also happy to see you waving your hand. So without wasting much time, I would like to request you to have a primary session for you. And before that, the common instructions or common setting about our event of today for our audience who are watching us live from different corners of the world. And that is, firstly, we will have the privilege to have some preliminary speech from Ustad Nouman Ali Khan. And then we have got some questions from different parts of the country, from the university students of Bangladesh. And from some pre-selected questions, we'll have the very important answers from our speaker. And then the last phase, we have an exclusive question and answer session where our audience, our participants will get the opportunity to ask questions directly to our speaker. And he will try to give brief answers to this. So this is the basic setting of the program for us today. And we are moving with the first segment of the event. That is the most desiring one, the most awaiting one, that to have a non-interactive session, have a continuous hearing from Ustad Nouman Ali Khan. Sir, floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi min ash-shaytanir rajim. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. I'd like to start by saying that I'm extremely honored and excited to have this opportunity that is, inshallah, only a preview of an opportunity in the near future to come and visit the beautiful country of Bangladesh and meet many of you students and folks in person. I pray that Allah opens that opportunity for me and that it is a benefit also, inshallah ta'ala. I'm very keenly eager to be able to have the opportunity to meet with university students and graduates and people that are pursuing their education in the Muslim world, because you represent, in my opinion, one of the most important segments of the population of any country or any region of the world that is going to be a huge factor in shaping what the future of that country and of the world looks like is your generation. Your minds are being shaped by the education that you're receiving. And in addition to the education that you're receiving, they're being influenced by the explosion of social media and of what's happening on the internet, including what we're experiencing right now, which was unheard of when I was in university. So the world of education and the world of sharing information and knowledge is a completely different world in the last couple of decades. It has completely transformed, and you're in an entirely new era. You and I are living now in an entirely new era, and the burden on your shoulders to carry the responsibility of this deen and to be representatives of this faith is a different responsibility than even the one that I used to have when I was coming out of university. You're facing a new challenge, a new frontier in front of you, and we have to be cognizant and aware of that. So what I want to take these few minutes to talk to you about is an understanding of where we are in the world now, where the world is heading, and what we as Muslims, and especially eager Muslims that have an attachment to their faith, that want to be in service to Allah and His deen, and want to be loyal to Allah's word and loyal to Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are we supposed to be doing? Because when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left, he left us with a responsibility. He is Allah's final messenger, which means there are no more people being sent directly by Allah to guide humanity back to Him. That responsibility that used to be carried by individual messengers ended with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from then onwards, that responsibility fell on the entire ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Umar bin al-Khattab famously used to say, "Ana Rasulu Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam." I am the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he understood something, that what was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was something to be carried, and when we say it's carried for the rest of humanity, you have to understand it means two things. It has to be carried in speech and it has to be carried in action to the rest of humanity. That is the burden that is placed on all of us now. But it is easy to say we must make da'wah, we must spread the message of Islam, we must live by the teachings of Islam. Those are easy things to say, but when you start looking at reality on the ground, then you have to understand that that statement means something else in the 18th century, it means something else in the 19th century, it means something else in the 20th century, and now it means something else in the 21st century. And as society, the world, technology, globalization, as it transforms the scope, the landscape of the world, what does it mean to carry the responsibility of this deen, and what strategic advantages and disadvantages do we have to be aware of? Nobody should have their eyes more open to that reality than university students, because you are now learning the world, you are exploring the world, and you are entering into this new reality. So with that in mind, what I wanted to share with you are just a couple of things from an ayah of the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal told us, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Very famous ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah says that He made us a middle nation. He made us a middle nation. And this word is really interesting. A nation, actually, it's a complex translation. A nation characterized by middleness. Now that sounds like complicated English, so let me try to simplify it for you. In simple English, it would mean nobody represents balance better than you people. So if somebody's looking, balance is an abstract idea. And if somebody's looking for a living example of what balance looks like, that is this ummah. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Not even ummatan mutawassitatan. That would be an easy translation, a balanced nation. So we're supposed to be representatives of what balance looks like. And what does it mean to have balance? Let's explore a few dimensions of that balance. The Quran says that the people that came before us, especially the Jews and the Christian people, the Jewish people became obsessed with the technicalities of their religion. They became obsessed with the technical details of their religion, what we call fiqh, for example. They became obsessed with it. And in doing so, they lost the actual spirit and the teachings of the Torah that was given to them. So they were more interested in the fatwa, and they were more interested in the legal rulings than they were in the actual words of Allah. That's what their religion became reduced to. And all their debates and arguments were over those things. On the flip side, the Christian people said, oh, you people are so technical, you're so obsessed with the legal side of your religion. This is the problem. We don't want anything to do with the legal side of the religion. They became an entirely spiritual religion. So they're focused on love and mercy and charity and forgiveness and spirituality. And for them, the law is no longer the necessity. right? So they said, well, if you want to be a good person, you have to be kind at heart, you have to be good to others, you have to love the Lord Jesus, etc., etc., etc. That's what makes you a good believer. So these two people philosophically became polar opposites. One focused on what you can call a kind of tasawwuf, so spirituality, and on the other, a kind of legalization of the religion, a legal lens with which you see all of the deen. That became the dissection between the Jewish and the Christian people. Then Allah gave His final messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He gave him this Quran. And this Quran has legal details in it, and it has a powerful spiritual message in it, and it is impossible to separate those two things. So you'll see, for example, only 10% or so of the Quran has laws in it. But even when those laws are being talked about, ayat, like if they're ayat of divorce, or they're ayat of inheritance law, or there are ayat regarding the dead, or widows, or something like that, any of those technical details, you'll notice all of them will end with some description of how to remember Allah. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُ. You should know Allah knows what's inside of yourselves. Be mindful of Allah. Allah knows everything. There's a talk about Allah, there's a talk about law in the beginning of the ayah, then there's talk about Allah by the end of the ayah. And we don't get to cut one part of the ayah and ignore the other part of the ayah, because Allah complains about those people and says, الَّذِينَ جَعَلُوا الْقُرْآنَ عِضِينَ. Those who took the Quran and tore it to pieces. They broke up the ayat, right? And He says in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you take some parts of the book, you leave other parts of the book. So we are at the same time both of those things. How can we become those two things? How do we make sure we don't become like the people before us on one extreme or the other extreme? And I don't like to, if you've been listening to my lectures, you know, I don't point my fingers at any groups of Muslims. I don't talk about any other personalities. I don't talk about any other school of thought. That is not my concern. My concern for me, and I hope for you also, is to try to understand the Book of Allah better, and using the Book of Allah as a lens so you can see reality better. So I can see reality better. Because Quran calls itself Nur. And Nur means light. And light, we know in science, without light you cannot see. It is only when the lights are turned on that I can see. And if Quran is being called light, you know what that means? The true reality of the world around me and the true reality of what's going on inside me, I cannot truly see it without light, meaning without the word of Allah. So I want us to develop looking at things from the right kind of light, from the right kind of lens. And that light, that prism, is actually the word of Allah. So from that point of view, I want you to realize that it's very possible that we Muslims can fall into two extremes. We can fall into one extreme where we're so focused on the spiritual and the aspect of being a good, charitable Muslim that we forget about the legal side of our religion. We don't concern ourselves with the halal or the haram. And you might end up being the kind of Muslim that says, oh, all these mullahs, all these maulvis, all these sheikhs, all these imams, all these religious types, all they talk about is haram, haram, haram. But look at them. They're not even good people. They don't even smile. They're not even kind to children. They're not even good to their wife. I just want to be a good person, right? So these people that talk about halal and haram, I don't want any, I'm allergic to all of them. I don't want anything to do with them. In fact, if one of these people, if I see them in the street, I get disgusted because I know these people, they talk about Allah and Quran and Sunnah and halal and haram, but they're terrible people. They're unkind people, right? And they're dishonest people. So what's that feeling? That feeling is that people that are concerned with the legal, listen to this terminology carefully. If you're taking notes or anything, these are the terms I want you to remember. The sentiment becomes people that are concerned with the legal are not concerned with the moral. So when they're legally concerned, halal, haram, mubah, sunnah, bid'ah, etc., then they're not concerned with the moral. And then the people that are trying to, okay, I want to make sure that I'm following the sunnah. I want to make sure that I enter the bathroom with my left foot. I want to make sure that I eat with my right hand. I want to make sure that I wear the hijab properly. I want to make sure that I pray at the right time. I want to make sure all the technicalities, you want to follow all of the technicalities. And then you go to university, you see other girls that are not wearing hijab. You see other young men that don't have a beard, that are smoking a cigarette or whatever else. And you're like, man, these people, they think they're good just because they're, they're giving some charity or they're helping some humanitarian cause. But look at them. They don't even follow Islam. They don't even pray. She doesn't even wear hijab. She doesn't. They don't have any concern for the law. And when you talk to them about being good, the only good that they talk about is the moral kind of good, right? So we've got two different definitions of good: the legal and the moral, right? The Sharia definitions of good deeds and the moral characterization of good deeds. The Quran is the only document, I would argue, in the world in record that calls for a worldview that perfectly balances the legal and the moral. Any country's constitution can only focus on the legal. Any philosophical text can only focus on the moral. The Quran is combined both seamlessly and perfectly. Now, the thing is, if the Quran is not at the center of our thinking, then we will have an imbalance. Guaranteed. Any human being will have an imbalance. Their imbalance will either be more towards their own definition of morality and they will compromise the law, or they will become too technical and they will compromise the morality that Allah wants us to have. The only way we can walk that path in the middle is by holding on to the word of Allah, which leads me to my next crisis. Islamic education right now in the world, Islamic education is sorely lacking in a focus on the Quran. It's actually sorely lacking. Even within Islamic education, we say that there are 20 different topics, 20 different subjects. Here's specialization number 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. These are the Islamic sciences. And the Quran is just one of those sciences. The Quran is one topic among many other topics, and all those topics together make up Islam, right? So if somebody says, and what that does is, the Quran, even for Islamic studies students, most Islamic studies students, unfortunately, the Quran is now only a book of references. So you use this book to draw a dalil, to draw an evidence for a topic that you're studying. The Quran is not the center of your thinking. It is only a reference manual from which you are drawing information. I often say in my lectures that even Islamic studies students, when they're studying Islamic books and materials, the author is talking about a subject and then he quotes an ayah, right? He's writing about something and maybe he's written a chapter on taqwa and he quotes an ayah and then he keeps on speaking. And you know what? The only part the students skip, they skip the part of the ayah. Oh yeah, that's an ayah. Okay, I got it. Let me read what the scholar has to say. So it shows you even psychologically, we have put the Quran as a secondary reference. And we have taken the secondary literature, the scholarly work, and we have made that the primary reference of Islam. And that naturally will create an imbalance. It will create an imbalance in the personality of a Muslim, in the outlook of Islam, in the way we see the world, because however you study Islam, that will become the lens with which you see it. So if your first exposure to Islam, for example, was studying Aqidah, for example, then you will look at the entire world from the lens of Aqidah and say, this person has the wrong Aqidah, that person has the right Aqidah, this person is mushrik, this person's kafir, this person's this. If your entire lens, you started studying Shafi'i fiqh, or you started studying Hanafi fiqh, and fiqh was the lens that you put on first, then as you look at the world around you, you're like, that person has no idea how to make wudu, this person's beard is against this fatwa, that person's shoes, this person's socks, etc., etc., etc. Your entire lens will become the study. Now, I would argue the lens that we must put on with which we study all of the other Islamic sciences needs to be the Quran. And I'm telling this conversation to you guys because you're not the only ones I've had this conversation with. At a higher level, I've had this conversation with scholars in private around the world. I won't name them, but I've had these conversations with them. And I've questioned, I've been trying to study Islam. Why is it that the Quran is getting such a secondary position even in Islamic studies? Even in Islamic studies. Why is that happening? And they say, I don't know. I wish it wasn't like that. Literally, some of the top scholars in the world, I wish it wasn't like that. And then I would say, how can we change this problem? And how can we create a Quran-centric approach to Islamic studies where all the sciences of Islam are studied, but they're studied through the lens of the Quran, through a primary focus of the Quran, and the Quran is no longer used as a reference. Where can I go? Which university can I go to? And there's pretty much silence on this issue. We're not there. And you know what? That means, this brings me to I said in the beginning, you're living in a different world, right? we have to realize where we are lacking as an ummah. And when we can be honest about where we are lacking as an ummah, then we can take productive, practical steps to make real positive change, so that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we see a positive change and a different landscape. So here's my proposal. Here are my thoughts about what I think university students like you can do. I think that there needs to be a re-emphasis and a demand, actually, even of Quranic studies in universities. When students can petition, for example, and say, we'd like to study, we'd like to introduce more courses in Quranic studies at the university, right? So even as part of your university education, as part of your auxiliary education in a Muslim country, that's not very hard. It's hard for us to do that here in America, but even in America, we can pull it off. There are Quran study courses at Harvard now, right? So you can pull this off. You can make those demands and access those kinds of that kind of education and create at least some exposure to the knowledge of the Quran and what the Quran is actually talking about. What are the issues in studying the Quran? This is the book that defines you and me. If we don't know what it is, that's a tragedy. I could tell you personally, when I was a university student and I heard the Quran in translation and I tried to understand it for the first time, my first feeling was I felt cheated. I lived my childhood in Saudi. I lived part of my childhood in Pakistan. I prayed Taraweeh with my father every year. I listened to Quran. I went to Jumu'ah. I did all of those things, but I had no idea what this book was talking about. No clue. And now I'm in university, and this is the first time I'm getting to know what this book is actually saying. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. And the crazy, I was talking to, actually, incidentally, one of my close friends here is also from Bangladesh. He and his children come, for every Jumu'ah, and they come at Baina campus, and we're pretty close. And he was telling me that actually, even up till now, there are not that many good translations of the Quran in the Bangla language. And there's only a handful. So much more work needs to be done, right? What I hope for in you students is, whether you're studying engineering, psychology, medicine, whatever you're studying, you are also lifelong students of the Quran. You are lifelong students of the Quran. You're raising the bar in Quran awareness in your society. It's a shameful thing. Look, I'm from a neighboring country. I'm from Pakistan. I asked my own mother when she was being raised, how much did she know about the Quran? She said, not much. We just know you have to pray 5 times, and we have to do Hajj and fasting. Do you know anything else about the Quran? Yeah, they made us memorize Qul Huwallahu Ahad. That's a Muslim country. And our parents' generation barely knew anything about the Quran, anything. And unfortunately, the only thing they knew is the Quran is really scary and you're probably going to hell. Like, that's the only thing they knew, which is so tragic. The book that came as a rahmah to humanity, and the Muslims are scared of their own book. And then they were told, if you try to study the Quran on your own, you will get misguided. You will get misguided. Really? The jinn could hear the Quran when the Prophet was reciting it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Ta'if. They could hear the Quran in passing, and they got guided. And they got guided so beautifully that they spoke about it, and their speech was so beautiful, Allah put it in the Quran. But you, a Muslim, if you try to study the word of Allah, you will get misguided. Does that make any sense? Yeah, you will have questions. You will have things you don't understand. Everybody does. And then you will go and seek the answers. You will seek from those who know better than you. And so as I wrap this monologue up, what I want to give you is a practical pathway. Everything is easy now. If somebody wanted to learn how to code an app, they can do it. They can do it sitting watching YouTube. If somebody wanted to learn video editing and production, or 3D animation, or they wanted to learn how to build a house, they can do it now. All they need is an internet connection and commitment, and they can do it. There is no component of education that is now inaccessible to us because of this remarkable invention that we have before us, this World Wide Web. So there is no excuse left for any of you very intellectual, very capable young men and women that you shouldn't have the tools to be able to do proper, authentic inquiry into the Quran by learning the language of the Quran. The first step is going to be language education. If you didn't know English, you wouldn't understand this lecture. If you didn't know English, you wouldn't be able to do many of your university studies, right? If you really want an intellectual connection with the Quran, then you have to be honest with yourself and say, I need to take Arabic studies seriously because I want to enlighten myself with what Allah is saying directly. I want a direct access to this book. And not only must I, if that education has not been available, then not only must I get that education, I maybe become a part of making that education easier to access in my country, so that the next generation of kids, by the time they're 15, 16 years old, they can hear the Quran and they know what Allah is saying. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that in Taraweeh, everybody understands what Allah is saying when the Imam is reciting? That would be a different society. They would be experiencing the words of Allah differently. It would affect their personal life differently. It would affect their outlook differently. So my appeal to bring about a positive change without thinking about bringing about the restoring the role of the Quran in our society. If we don't bring that back, you can talk about bringing back Islam or imposing Islamic laws or implementing policies that are more in line with Islamic values, but you're talking about bringing outside changes without bringing any inside changes. The real change in
Right.
society is inside. That's the change that will only come when the Quran becomes an emotional and an intellectual component of our personality. And that cannot happen if we don't take its education, its language, more and more seriously, more and more exposure to the Quran at all levels. That's my appeal to you. And I pray that if you like the kind of work that I do, I pray that there are hundreds, if not thousands of you that do a job 10 times, 100 times better than I do of spreading the word of the Quran in your own language, in your own village, in your own dialect, so that there's no villager left. There's no mother left that doesn't know the Quran. By the time she's raising her baby was growing up knowing about Adam alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam directly from the word of Allah. They knew about Musa alayhi salam. They knew about Nuh alayhi salam. They know about the day of judgment. They know about the balance and justice of the deen. They know Allah's approach to race. Look at our how can a society, this is the last thing I'll tell you, how can a society be religious and racist at the same time? How's that possible? How is it that people are memorizing the Quran and they're praying 5 times and they're eating only halal food and they're talking about Allah and His Messenger, but they think their village is superior to that other village, or their dialect is better than the other dialect, or they would never marry their daughter to this lower class or whatever? Why this mentality can only exist when the message of the Quran hasn't been internalized, when that's not existent yet, right? And that's what we want to completely transform. And you guys will be the change, the agents of change, because you are university students. You're well educated in the secular sense, in the sciences. Inshallah, you'll accomplish great things in your career. And while you're doing that, you're going to have an intellectual and a spiritual attachment to your faith that is rooted not just because you're born of Muslim parents or because you heard a couple of YouTube speeches, because you found that conviction inside yourselves. That's the change that's going to come in that society. The world is in need of it. The world is in need of a renaissance. And it will not come at the hands of those who only know about, one dimension. Our scholars used to say, ilmu riwayah and ilmu diraya. You have to know the knowledge of the text and you have to have the knowledge of reality. One foot in both worlds. And that's what I'm hoping that this generation of students is going to do. So I'm really enthusiastic and hopeful that I see university students engaging and wanting to learn more about their deen and opening and broadening their minds. I hope you realize what a revolutionary religion it is that we are blessed to follow, this truth that Allah has given us. It is unlike any other religion. It is unlike any other religions want you to close your mind. Our religion wants you to think. It wants you to explore. It wants you to seek out more truth. It's absolutely unique. No other religion puts knowledge and seeking knowledge at a high pedestal the way that Islam does. Nowadays, secular people, atheists and others, they think religion is closed-minded, right? It's narrow-minded. It doesn't let you think openly and in a neutral way. You're just biased. I have never seen more clarity. I was a student of philosophy. I've never seen more clarity except through the Quran. It is the most profound opening of the mind and the soul that I've ever experienced. And I want that to be experienced by all of you personally. May Allah Azza wa Jal make you an agent of the change that will come in your life, that will come in the lives of your families and your future generations, and your society and your country as a whole. Jazakumullahu khairan. Now I'm going to take some of the questions you guys sent me. Some of the questions you guys sent me, by the way, everybody asked me those questions. So I'm not going to answer those because I've answered them a bajillion times. Google it. But some of them were kind of different and unique. So I'm going to ask you to share some of those questions with me. So take it away, Faisal.
MashaAllah. So, very valuable verse on the divine guidelines from Quran and from the words of Allah. That if we go with that verse, if we can stick with the Quran, then probably thousands of problems of our modern life can be easily solved. And probably that's the core message from the valuable words from our Ustad. Now we'll go to the second segment of our show, and that is the very important few questions that is not usually answered by Nouman Ali Khan. But those questions were raised by the university students of Bangladesh, and now we'll go a few questions from that segment as well. So the first question we raise here, the question is, as we know from the Quran that it is mentioned in Surah Baqarah, verse number 138, that adopt the color of Allah. And what is better than the color of Allah? And we are worshippers of Him. So the questioner likes to know that what does the verse actually means and what is our learning from this verse?
Very nice. So the phrase is actually Surah Al-Baqarah, Sibghat Allah, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ صِبْغَةً. This ayah, that you correctly translated roughly, the color of Allah, and what better can there be than in color than Allah? That's the strange English translation of that phrase. This was given to the Prophet ﷺ when there was a debate happening between some of the Jewish elements in Medina, when the Prophet was in Medina, and they were questioning whether or not Islam is a true religion and the Prophet is actually a real prophet. And the Quran answered very beautifully by actually telling the Jewish people of Medina that if you believe that you are correct, then you must be more loyal to Ibrahim alayhi salam than the Prophet of Allah. And so let's see who's closer to the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, you people, or what this Prophet is saying. And Ibrahim alayhi salam completely surrendered himself to Allah's will with no compromises. إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Whenever Allah asked him, demanded from him to surrender, he declared, I surrender completely before the master of all worlds and all people. When Allah asked him to slaughter his son, he didn't hesitate. When Allah asked him to jump into a fire, he didn't hesitate. So there are multiple occasions in which Ibrahim alayhi salam does surrender before Allah in ways nobody else surrendered. And if the Jewish people are claiming that they are the legacy of their father Ibrahim, why are they having such a hard time surrendering to the word of Allah? Not just in front of the Prophet, but even historically. They had a problem surrendering with the word of Allah. And that's what Surah Al-Baqarah does, is it exposes how they have left the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then Allah describes, this is actually a style of the Quran. It's called majaz. And majaz is when Allah describes a reality with language, but He doesn't use the word, the meaning that you find in the dictionary. So let me give you some examples so this concept is easy to understand, because this will not just answer this question, it will help you with other parts of the Quran too. If I said to you, I saw the match, and the opening batsman was a lion. It was a cricket match, yeah? And the opening batsman was a lion. Everybody who hears me knows that the opening batsman was not an animal that was released from the zoo and was handed a bat. What I'm saying is that this batsman was fearless and he dominated the field, and everybody else was scared of him, and he annihilated his enemies, which is similar to what? A lion. But clearly, the guy's not a lion. He's not a carnivore. He doesn't eat other animals. He doesn't look like a lion. He's just a human being. But we use this kind of figurative language all the time. It's a natural part of speech. In fact, even in the Fatiha, we say what? Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. Now, if you say literally straight path, there must be some road that is very straight, and we're asking Allah for directions to that road that exists in the Arabian desert somewhere, and only when you drive on that road are you going to be on the straight path. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about a lifestyle, a way of living, a way of seeing reality, a way of making decisions that is so directly leads to Allah, that it can be compared to what? A straight path. It's like you're on a direct road to meet Allah in a good way. With that in mind, understand the majaz, the figurative language that's being used in this ayah. When somebody is, if imagine somebody is painted, like if I dropped paint on top of you, if I put blue paint on top of you, then you're just blue. Like the first thing I see about you is blue. If I dumped you in red paint, then top to bottom, all you are is red. This is the first thing I notice about you. I notice nothing else. I just notice that about you first. Why is this guy red? Why is that guy yellow? Why is this guy blue? Why is this guy green? Right? Top to bottom. That's all I see is this. When you say that, when Allah says Sibghat Allah, it's as if Iman in Allah and the way Allah wants me to be, if that was like a paint, an ink, then I have dipped myself in that ink and I have adopted that color completely. So everything about me has it shows that I have drowned myself in my faith completely. So the way I speak reminds somebody of Allah. The way I'm kind to a child reminds somebody of Allah. The way I cross a street reminds somebody of Allah. The way I show manners when I'm sitting in a bus reminds somebody of Allah. The way I speak to my elders reminds somebody of Allah. Everything I do, the way I treat in business, the way I refuse to give a bribe or take a bribe, the way that I guard my eyes, the way anything I do is colored by Allah. That's what this phrase means. It's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. And who was this said to? Let me remind you. It was said to the Jews. Why? Because the Jews, on the outside, they had long beards. They had yarmulkes. They looked righteous. They looked religious. They looked like holy people. So on the outside, they looked like they are in the color of Allah. But actually, they hadn't adopted the color. It was just the outside appearance. And Allah wants the real color of Allah to be adopted. Meaning, truly embody the message. Not just demonstrate the message. Not just in appearance, but actually all in all. Sibghat Allah, wa man ahsanu min Allahi sibgha. So that would be the meaning of that ayah in a nutshell.
Alhamdulillah. And surely we want to drown with the colors of Allah. We want to have and adopt the colors of Allah in our total life. And that,
Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen.
what can be better than this if we can have the color of Almighty Allah?
Yeah.
Moving on to our next question, that is, what should I do when I am feeling like my Iman is getting weaker day by day?
So we live in the age of social media. And what social media has done is it makes you watch people that are smarter than you, that look better than you, that have more money than you, that have a nicer house than you, they sound nicer than you, they're more talented than you, they're more popular than you, they're happier than you, they're eating better food than you're eating. Everything about them is good, and it makes you feel like everything about you is bad. And then you turn to Allah and say, Ya Allah, why is their life so good? Why is my life so bad? My Iman is getting weaker day by day. Maybe you should turn off TikTok for a little bit. Your Iman's going to start getting better. Shaitan wants you to live in comparison. From the very beginning, he compared himself to Adam alayhi salam. That's what destroyed him. And you know what's happening now? You cannot help but constantly compare yourself. Girls are comparing themselves to others and saying, she's taller, this one's skinnier, this one has better skin, this one other people like, this one's teeth are nicer, this one has better clothes, this one has this one has that, that one even got married. Oh my God, that one had a baby. I don't even have I'm not even married yet, and this one already had a baby. This one finished her degree. I didn't even get in the first year. Constant comparison is destroying you and is destroying your faith, because it's making you never look at what you have. It's always making you look at what somebody else has. And then what you have looks worse. If, wallahi al-azim, if you had no food, and somebody gave you one little piece of bread, you would be happy because you have something. Something is better than nothing. But if you had that piece of bread and you looked over and somebody else has a bigger piece of bread, then all of a sudden this piece of bread is no longer that good. If you were by yourself without looking anywhere else, it would be good enough. Allah says, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Do not wish for the things that Allah has given some people advantage over others. Don't keep on wishing for those other things. لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا. Men will have a portion from what they earned. Women will have a portion from what they earned. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. If you want better, ask Allah from the better that He has. Don't ask Allah, Ya Allah, give me what this one has. Ya Allah, give me what that one has. Take it from them, give it to me. No. Ask Allah from His fear. Ya Allah, give me what's better for me. So a lot of your depression and a lot of your weakness of Iman is actually coming from your constant obsession with other people and what they're doing and where they're living and how they're doing and what's going on in their life. Live your own life. Stop living other people's lives on social media. They're fake anyway. The best, those happiest couples on social media that have the most followers are having miserable marriages, but they have to keep up the filter and keep up, showing others that they have the best married life and they're cooking breakfast together. Next thing you know, they're getting divorced. But they don't want to tell the world because it will be bad for their social media following. It's fake. It's so much of it is fake. And you're looking for validation in it. That is actually one of the great crises of our time. It's become, you just feel inadequate all the time. You always feel like you're not enough or Allah hasn't given you enough. And that's, to me, it's one of the biggest sources of weakness of Iman nowadays. One of the biggest sources. Allah protect you all from it.
Okay, great. And moving on to a question that is very similar to this, part of it's already answered, and probably we can highlight on the later part. And the question is, like, how the young people of this age, they can keep or they can have the peace of mind, peace in spirits, and they can kick out or get rid from all the depressions that come every now and often and with different events as well. So how to get rid of depressions in a word?
I will give you a philosophical answer to this question. Please listen to this carefully. I try not to speak in philosophical or intellectual terms because I want people to really understand what I'm saying. But I think your university students, you will be able to manage. Okay? The Quran, it has multiple benefits. Yeah? And it has a primary purpose, and then it has benefits. Right? So think of it this way, the job that you get, you have a primary job. But with that job comes some other benefits. Right? Maybe you get free coffee or something. I don't know. Those are one of the benefits. The goal of your job was not the free coffee. The goal of your job was the task you have to fulfill. The Quran gave us a task. The Quran gave us a purposeful life, which is to prepare ourselves for the day of judgment. And to prepare yourself for the day of judgment, which is the day of justice, you have to make sure that you live by justice and you try to establish more and more of justice in every sphere of influence that you have. So you should try to have justice in your family. You should have justice in your business, justice in your neighborhood, by extension, justice in your society, justice in the world, right? So you're constantly advocating and pushing for justice. That is your purpose in life, for yourself and for everybody else. Okay, while you're doing that, when you stand for justice in any capacity, if you stand for justice against your older brother, if you stand for justice against your father, ma'adallah, like Ibrahim alayhi salam had to stand against his father, if you stand for justice against your child or your husband or your wife, obviously you will be met with opposition. You will be opposed, you will be attacked, you will be slandered, you will be humiliated. All those things will happen to you. And when that happens to you, your hope and your enthusiasm and your energy will be depleted because you are faced with lots of negativity. When that happens, the Quran provides its benefits. So its goal is to make you a person of justice. When you start becoming a person of justice, you will meet challenges. You will meet negativity. You will meet hopelessness. That is when the Quran fills you with hope. It fills you with gratitude. It gives you the strength to keep going. It pushes you towards conquering those obstacles, those negative obstacles, because the purpose is too important. The purpose is so important, it gives you the strength to keep going. Now, let me tell you why I said this. I said two things: purpose and then hope, right? And when you're trying to fulfill your purpose and justice and you're not able to meet that goal, that's when the narrative of hope kicks in the Quran. The problem nowadays is we want nothing to do with the purpose. We want everything from the benefits. We only want the benefits. We don't want to work on the purpose. A lot of your depression, a lot of the depression that people are going through, I would argue much of it can be conquered when you commit yourself to a higher purpose. When you busy yourself with something greater than yourself. Your negativity will still be there. Let me just tell you, young men and women, my brothers and sisters, some of you young enough to be my sons and daughters, let me just tell you, every one of us has drama in their life. Every one of us has people that make us depressed. Everyone. No, there's no exception. Ibrahim alayhi salam was not exception. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not exception. Nuh alayhi salam was not exception. Congratulations, you are also not exception. Your auntie will give you depression. Your brother will give you depression. Your cousin will give you depression. It's going to come. It's going to come from people. And you know what? And whether you're living a purposeful life or not, it will come to you. But when you're living a purposeful life, then Allah will give you the strength to pass through it and to treat it like nothing. Treat it like, when you're walking in the desert and the sand comes in your eye, it hurts, but you can remove it and you can keep going. The sand comes in your eye and you say, I don't want to go on anymore. I'm just going to sit here. Yeah, then you're killing yourself. You'll keep going. You'll just keep going. You'll pass through it. But you must decide what your life means. Your life is not just to get away from toxicity and to get some help and be happy. Happiness is not a goal. Purpose is a goal. If you're going to become a doctor, you should be revolutionizing medicine in your country. You should be revolutionizing healthcare, not just get a job and get married and get a nice car. That's not enough. That's not enough. You should be revolutionizing the entire hospital system. You should be bringing medical care to places that have never seen a doctor before. That's your goal. That's where you're headed. That's a purpose. Look, even when you become rich, what are you going to do? You're just going to eat a little extra ketchup? What are you going to do? You still can only eat so much. And when you go to sleep, it doesn't matter if you're sleeping on the floor or on the most expensive bed. You're still asleep. It didn't really make a difference. You can only take so much rizq, right? But you can give, you can create something greater than yourself. And when you develop that larger mentality, that bigger thinking mentality, then the small things every day that depress most people, you can just pass through them and keep on going. They become small. When you don't have a bigger goal, then small things become big. When you have a big goal, then even big things can become small. That's the mentality I want all of you to have, inshallah.
MashaAllah. So the concluding message is very vital. That is, if we have the goal of Jannah, then all other goals will be very little, very teeny in this dunya. So we should have that goal actually in front of us and focused with that so that we can get rid of all these earthly depressions on the way of life. Now moving on to our next question, and I will throw two questions together because those are very similar and that will be helpful for our speaker to give a comprehensive answer to both. The first thing is why dating is haram in Islam. Because if the person has the intention of marrying in order to him in the future, then why he is not allowed or she is not allowed to date, to have a common understanding, to have a better understanding about that person, our his or her character and everything. That's one. And similarly, other person wants to know that how he or she can get rid of premixing or from haram relationship, which is prohibited in Islam. So, how to balance those?
Okay. I love how you laughed when you asked that question. That was my favorite part of the question. Okay. So, um, my honest answer is that dating is a confusing term, and it implies that men and women have an indecent or inappropriate relationship that violates the principles of our religion. But let me just be very clear about what I'm convinced of, and I haven't seen evidence to the contrary ever. The Sahaba got married, and they got to know each other. They spoke to each other. They developed a mutual understanding. They even came to the point where I said, I like you. I think I want to marry you. Okay, well, speak to my family. This happened. There's a natural, decent level of conversation that is completely permissible in our religion. There is no absolute segregation of society. If you study the life of Medina carefully, how did the Sahaba live in Medina? How did men and women interact in Medina? You will find that the kind of extreme segregation that we talk about is not what was happening in Medina, actually. There was a respectful communication, a transparent communication with an awareness that there are principles in our religion that we must abide. That it's okay, guys, the ones that are listening, it's okay when you're in the university, you're about to graduate, you have a job lined up, and you like someone, that's not haram. To let them know that you like them and you'd like to pursue a conversation about marriage is not haram. But yeah, if you're going to create khalwa and you're just by yourselves talking to each other until 3 in the morning and all this other stuff, okay, fine. Now you're getting into trouble. But if you can be respectful in public space and get to know somebody and transparent, and even the daughters that are sitting here can let their fathers know, listen, there's this young man in university, he wishes to speak to me, I'd like to speak to him too, is that okay with you? That is okay. That is not a wrong thing. There's nothing that I've seen in our dean's literature that says that that is condemned in any way, shape, or form. Because if you don't get to know someone, you don't get to understand their personality, their likes and dislikes, their sense of humor, etc., and you just say, oh, well, they look like they pray, his beard is long enough, I think that's good enough, you might end up in a disaster. These people might end up hating each other in a month. And now they're together because now they're feeling guilty that I just got married to someone for Islam. That's not Islam. Islam is not saying you should get married to perfect strangers because your parents tied you up. That Islam never said any of this. So we have, and I don't advocate open dating culture either. There's a normal middle. Islam has given us decent guidelines. Follow those guidelines, and it's perfectly okay for you to get to know somebody that you're interested in for marriage. You know, we're not the liberal West either, where there's always try before you buy. And we're not the extreme either, where you just go blind and your mom said, okay, marry this girl, and you're going to marry this girl. It's not like that either. You, as a man and a woman, have a choice, and you have the right to explore whether or not this person is good for you, whether you're or not you even like having a conversation with them. And when the time comes to have a conversation, if you're going to be awkward and say, no, whatever you say is okay, I'm happy. Well, if you're not going to be talking like that when you get married. Then the fights are going to be so loud, and then even the guy's going to be like, what happened to you? That was not your volume when we first spoke. You said everything is okay. Now nothing is okay. What happened here? That's because we are too afraid to have open, transparent conversation about our likes, our dislikes, our boundaries, our comfort zones. If a young man has guidelines and says, hey, when I get married, I would be very uncomfortable if my wife did this, this, and this. What do you think about that? And the girl says, well, I wouldn't like it if you had, if you continue to talk to other women on social media, or you did this, that, or the other, that will make me uncomfortable. You can discuss, your boundaries. You can discuss what you think would hurt your feelings. You can discuss what you think you expect in a marriage, right? Those are important conversations. That's the rest of your life. That is the rest of your life. A young woman should ask, what do you think what I should do with your mother? That's an important question. Because if your mother asked me to do something, should I just consider that a command from you, or is that separate? Because in our deen it's separate, right? In our cultures it's not, but in our deen it's separate. You owe a responsibility to your husband. You don't owe it to your husband's extended family or anybody else. He owes it to them, not you. He didn't marry you to make you a servant to his mother. He married you because he wants to have a relationship with you where he takes care of things for you and you take care of things for him. That's the deal. Maybe you should be discussing that. Maybe you should be getting clarity on these things before you end up getting married, having an expensive nikah, mehndi, walima, party, all that stuff. And then at the end of the day, 2 months later, there's drama, crying, breaking plates, yelling and screaming, depression. What have I done? Save yourself the trouble. Our deen did not impose unnatural restrictions. Our deen gave moral, ethical, spiritual guidelines. Just follow those and it should be okay. This is the same advice. I'm not just telling this advice to my young brothers and sisters. This is the same advice I would give my own children. I would give my children no different advice.
Great. So moving on to our next question, which is actually a burning question in our present society, and that is, we know social media have huge influence in our present life, and we are just it has become a part of our daily lives. Now, when it becomes an addiction, and also when we talk about pornography, so how to get rid of this, and what should be your advice? How our youth can protect themselves from pornography and the addiction of social media, or from the harmful things of social media?
It's not a spiritual solution. It's really a psychological solution, in my point of view. Young men and women need to keep themselves extremely productive and extremely busy, too busy to have time for that kind of nonsense. If you can't find a job, go volunteer. If you can't volunteer, go start exercising until you're so exhausted you pass out. Busy yourself with something that will benefit you either in your deen or your dunya, and exhaust yourself. This is the age where you get to exhaust yourself. This is the time you have one thing that when you get older you will not have. You have time. Put it to use. These addictions are actually filling the void of empty time. Because you're not doing something better with your time, you have time to do these horrible things, and you fall into that trap and you fall into that cycle. But the only way to break it is to busy yourself. The temptation will always be there. The desire will always be there. You have to learn to live with it. But how will you live with it? When you're doing something more important instead. I don't think I would have survived in New York City by myself without my parents if I wasn't working full-time, going to college full-time, commuting, and barely able to survive, like a week's worth of work, sleeping half of Saturday to recover. And then whenever I had free time, I was just either teaching kids or playing basketball, honestly. And then studying Arabic. That's what I was doing. Because 16, 17, 18-hour days. I didn't have time for this thing. This thing has made most of us really useless. Like, put this down and you'll become a really useful human being. If you want to be on social media, do it. Get on it to learn something. Set goals for yourself. In the next 2 weeks, I'm going to finish this 20-hour course. I'm going to go to Udemy and finish this course. I'm going to watch this entire series on this skill or that skill on YouTube. Enhance yourself as a person. You can use social media to really grow yourself, to really enhance yourself too. Use it for the good that it has. Put it to work. And, just realize that you're investing into yourself, and everything else is just a drug. These are just the new kinds of drugs, and any addiction will lead to the same thing. It'll just end up destroying you. So I pray that you're able to come out of that cycle and do something more productive, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. So now we are going into a bit opposite direction, and that is like two questions together again.
Okay.
To convey the message clearly. Firstly, how to deal with the societal and cultural norms Okay, we will come to this question later. That's an interesting question for parents. So that will be the last question. Before that, like how to best find spiritual arrogance. That is one thing, and the other thing is, what's your viewpoint towards approaching people who violently condemn Islam and the Quran? So one thing is, what should be our approach to the people who are very aggressive against Islam, against Quran, against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as well as how we can control our spiritual arrogance.
My approach towards anyone who's angry is the same. I try to figure out why they're angry. I don't think that someone's angry because they're evil. That's an easy answer. I don't believe in easy answers. I think someone's angry towards Islam or the Quran or the Prophet because something wrong was done to them. They have experienced something bad. Maybe they've experienced something bad in the name of Islam, and we don't know about it. We don't realize that something is in their story that has caused them pain, that has made them very angry. And when you don't see the opponent as a human being, and you try not to figure out, you don't try to take the time to figure out there's actually maybe some legitimate pain behind their view, then you will be arguing with them and are fighting fire with fire only to create a bigger fire, right? There were people that used to come to the Prophet ﷺ extremely angry. And by the time he was done conversing with them, the fire was put out. There's something in that sunnah, is that he was able to see the humanity behind the anger, the pain behind the anger, right? We as Muslims have to acknowledge, Muslims that want to serve their deen have to acknowledge that a lot of injustice has also been done in the name of Islam. A lot of wrong has been done in the name of the Quran and the Sunnah, and wrongly in the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And a lot of people that have a very negative view of Islam, if you were experiencing life from their point of view, you would probably have the same view. If you saw things from their lens, you probably would not have a different experience. You'll probably see things the same way. So you cannot engage, debating is easy. Fighting back and arguing back is easy. But being able to see someone else's point of view and where it originated from, and where maybe Islam never has anything wrong in it, but maybe Muslims do. But outsiders are not going to say, oh, that's not Islam, that's just Muslims. They're going to say, no, this is Islam. The Muslims got it from Islam. The Muslims got their bad behavior from Islam. So they will bunch us together, right? The first thing to do here is to admit our own fault, actually. Instead of saying Islam is perfect, Muslims are not perfect, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, I can see why you say that. I can see why you could feel that way, And that is a really, really important thing. If you want to engage someone, you must learn to become a careful listener. And you must learn to understand where they're coming from and treat them like a dignified human being. I'll tell you a story over here in my campus. This is in Texas, right? And this is, of course, very conservative American flag country, right? And we have this campus and we have construction going on here, and we had a contractor. And he said, I refuse to do the work here now that I found out that this is a Muslim institution. I don't want anything to do. I don't support their religion. I'm not going to do this contract. So he refused. And I really respected him for it. He believes Islam is evil. So he's not even going to take money from people he thinks are evil. So I wrote to him and I said, I respect what you just did, because there are a lot of people who can say things behind your back and not be honest and open about it. You have the courage and the decency to say what you believe about me and my faith. But if you ever want to talk about it, let's go out for coffee. Let's go have a chat. I'd love to answer some of your questions. you know, and I'd love to engage. And if you ever want to invite me to your church, I'm coming. Right? And we had coffee once. The point is, and the entire conversation wasn't even about how much he hates Islam. It was just now he's dealing with a human being who's treating him with some respect, who's willing to listen to him, right? So you might find that behind a lot of the angry rhetoric is actually some kind of depression, pain, anxiety, or something hurtful. So that would be my approach to that. Now, as far as spiritual arrogance is concerned, the people that came before us are the example that Allah has given us to watch out. What did they do? They made appearance, they confused appearance with righteousness. I'll say that again. They confused appearance with righteousness. And then they confused the perception of others with the perception of themselves. If everybody else is calling me amazing, if everybody else is saying, MashaAllah, you are the hope of this ummah. Oh, MashaAllah, you are so, Allah will reward you so much. Oh, MashaAllah, if only my children can be like you. Oh, MashaAllah, 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 MashaAllah. That's the perception of others. Do not confuse the perception of others with your reality. Because nobody knows your reality like you do. Do not confuse it. And the same way, do not confuse the appearance of goodness with goodness itself. We all have to be very aware of our human ugliness. Allah created us with فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Every human being has great capacity for evil in them, and every human being has great capacity for good in them. So when I look at myself, I have to be honest with myself. These are the evil things that I am capable of. These are the evil thoughts that I have to fight. These are the temptations that I have to overcome. I am nowhere near perfect. And these are the things that I am good at, and these are the things where I am weak, where I'm susceptible. If you cannot be honest with yourself about your own weaknesses and your own strengths, then yes, you will have spiritual arrogance. But if you can, then you'll be okay. I have to be very honestly, I have to be honest with myself, and that's my business. That's not your business. So I don't have to sit here and tell you where my weaknesses and my strengths are, but I have to be open with myself about it. I have to be very clear with myself about it. And you have to stand in the mirror and be very clear with yourself. When you can do that and be completely honest with yourself and not defensive, then you will not suffer from spiritual arrogance. Then appearances will not matter, and other people's opinion of you, the positive opinion of you, the impression of you will not matter. I am no better a Muslim because I have millions of followers or millions of viewers. That doesn't make me a better Muslim. Because Allah is not going to check my Facebook status before He judges me on Judgment Day. It's not going to matter, right? If anything, that might even get me in more trouble. You know, if I allow that perception to influence who I am, then I have failed. How am I going to go try to teach the world about ikhlas, and I don't have any left? It doesn't make any sense. You know, so Allah protect all of you, but may Allah keep you all clear about who you are. بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. Surah Al-Qiyamah. Allah says a human being has perfect view of himself, even though he makes all kinds of excuses. Right? So may Allah make us a perfect view of ourselves.
Great. So clear message were conveyed. I hope that this will be very helpful for our future life, and especially for the young generation, because this is a very common questions nowadays. And last questions from the selected versions, and the last question from our second segment. And that is an interesting question for our parents to listen carefully. The question came from the children, of course. And the question
You're going to get
is,
me banned from Bangladesh, man.
No way.
Some parent is going to be the passport visa officer, and I'm just going to get sent right back to Texas from the airport. That's what's going to happen. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
no, do it. Let's do it. It'll be fun.
They are the upcoming parents as well, and recent parent as well. So that's an interesting question, because the question is, we know that there are some cultural and societal norms that is deeply ingrained in our parents' mind, in their attitude. Now, when that goes against the basic principles of Islam, and when that falls into the category of haram, then what should be our attitude to them, and what should be our attitude to that part as well?
Muslim youth are always in a crisis with their parents. Always. You know why? Because our religion says you have to be the best to your parents. Don't even say oof to them. And parents know that and they use it. They are so good at using it. Our parents can be so abusive, so amazingly offensive. Like, I pray you have merciful parents, and may Allah reward and forgive our parents, but our parents can sometimes become so ruthless and so aggressive and so unkind. Why? Because they know you can't talk back, because your religion stops you from talking back. You can't walk away because you're a slave of Allah. And they confuse that with you're a slave of them. You know, every human being deserves dignity. Every human being. That includes parents, but that also includes children. When Allah tells us to be the best to our parents, be very clear. Being the best to your parents and not even saying oof to them does not mean that you allow them to do wrong. To allow them to do wrong. Those ayat are about serving your parents and not letting them feel like they are a burden. But those ayat are not about when they are doing wrong that you should just be quiet and not say anything. In fact, other place in the Quran, Allah says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. This is the hardest teaching of Islam, in my opinion. This is harder than jihad fi sabilillah. This is the hardest teaching of Islam. Listen carefully. He says, if they are struggling against you to put a partner next to Allah that they don't even know about, and of course, your parents are not Hindu, they're Muslim parents. They're not putting a partner next to Allah. But you know what? They want an authority next to Allah's authority. They want a rule. They want to create a new halal and haram above and beyond Allah's halal and haram. Isn't that a partner next to Allah? Isn't that an authority? Like, the ultimate authority is our culture. The ultimate authority is me. The ultimate authority is not what the Quran says. The ultimate authority is not what the Rasul says. The ultimate authority is what I'm telling you. And Allah says what? فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. Don't obey them. Do not obey them. Ibrahim alayhi salam is also a son. Allah, the instruction that you should be the best to your parents has always been there. So even Ibrahim alayhi salam is supposed to be the best to his parents. And he turns to his father and says, قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَمْ يَأْتِكَ فَاتَّبِعْنِي أَهْدِكَ صِرَاطًا سَوِيًّا. I have knowledge that hasn't come to you. You should be following me. In this, you should be following me. Look, if you love your father, if you love your mother, and they're doing something that you know gets them in trouble with Allah. I was giving children this analogy the other day. Please listen carefully. If my father, or somebody's father, I won't even say my father, if somebody's father was sleeping on the sofa, sleeping on the sofa, and the house is on fire, and I come and say, Abba, Daddy, Baba, Papa, and he says, hey, I had a long day at work. But the house is, what did I tell you? Let me sleep. No. It's getting hotter. You need to get up. No, leave me alone. There's nothing. Yes, it is. And you have to drag your dad now. And he's cursing you and he's yelling at you. And then he's telling you, Islam says you shouldn't even say oof to your parents. Look at you. You woke up your father. You're dragging him out. You still have to drag him out. You can't say, oh, you're right, Dad. I shouldn't wake you up. Sorry. I should let the house burn and go outside because I fulfilled the ayah. Does it make any sense? No. You and I have to help our parents see when they are wrong. And if they refuse to see it because they are stubborn, they refuse to see it because they are set in their ways, then all you can do is two things at the same time. Number one, you must be clear about what they are doing wrong and why. You must explicitly state, hey, this is wrong for you, and this is not something Allah is pleased with. I cannot do it, and I will not do it. And I love you so much, but I will disobey you. And I will massage your feet, and you can slap me with shoes, but I will still disobey you. Because Allah says, don't obey them. And then He says, وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, and accompany them in a decent way at the same time. That's the hardest instruction in Islam. Why? Because you're going to make them angry and still stay with them, both at the same time. And you will hold your ground. They can shame you. They can, and you have a right to speak for yourself. You say, what you said is not true. What you're doing is wrong. When you're speaking like this to me, angels are recording this against you. You don't have the license to do that. You don't have a right to humiliate another human being, not even your own child. You do not, Allah did not give you that right. Just because Allah gave me the instruction to be the best to you does not give you the right to be the worst to me. That is not correct. I have rights also. And in some cases, you can walk away. It's okay for you to walk away from the conversation because you are saving them from doing more sin against themselves. This is also a mercy to your parents. If you're going to leave them alone for a little bit, let them cool off and not use horrible words, because Allah is, ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. Surah Qaf. There is not a word that a person says, not a single word that a person says, that next to him is a raqib, someone watching over his neck, that is going to document everything. Our parents' words are also being documented. So if you know that they're going to say ignorant things, then it's better for you to leave them alone for a little bit until they cool off, and try having a dignified conversation again and again and again and again. And when they see your consistency, that you don't lose your control, you don't lose your temper, and you continue to hold on to your boundaries, and you continue to stand by what is right, and while at the same time you try to be as respectful to them as possible, when eventually they will give up. Eventually. It won't happen overnight. This is this instruction is like revolutionary. It's not easy. This is Allah put it next to ibadah of Him. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. He put it next to worshiping Him, because worshiping Him got people in a lot of trouble. And showing ihsan to your parents is also a kind of jihad. It can get you in it can put you in harm's way. And Allah give you strength to maintain this guidance of Allah when it comes to dealing with your parents. And I pray Allah opens the hearts of our parents and softens their hearts towards the teachings of this deen. And inshallah, He uses your character to open those hearts.
MashaAllah. So that concludes the second segment of our exclusive interactive session with Ustad Nouman Ali Khan, and we are moving towards the last part of this live show. Lots of people are watching at this moment, and surely they are also very excited to share this with others, and to have some real fragments, to collect some real parts of Islam from this session. So moving on to the question and answer session, and we would like to start from the ladies floor first.
Okay.
That is the 10th floor, and there are some questions are there already. So we would like
the ladies
to,
have the best room. You see that? There's the nicest
yeah,
room.
Probably the larger crowd is there, you can see.
Yeah, and also the guys on the 13th floor, they're just sitting in a bus station. What's going on?
No, that's like a auditorium floor, and they have a different seating arrangement there, like that downstairs.
I got you guys. Okay, anyway, sisters, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So moving on to the 10th floor, and the way I would like to receive the questions, that I would request the participant, with the help of our volunteers, to come in front of the speaker and the camera, and ask your questions directly. This is your opportunity to ask your question directly to your favorite Ustad Nouman Ali Khan. So just one by one, you can just ask, and just be careful about the time. Please don't waste much time. So
no pressure.
Now it's your floor. 10th floor. Your mic is now unmuted, and you can start. So, just for your convenience, I am giving the instruction again that the participants whose questions were selected in the floor. So, 10th floor participants, you have got the signal that whose questions are selected. Probably in total, there are 6 questions. So, those 6 persons should come in a row and ask their questions directly. You have the opportunity to ask your questions personally, directly, or if you don't want to ask by yourself, you can take the help of the faculty members and volunteers involved there. Or just let me know if you need more time, then we can move on to the next floor. 10th floor, are you okay? Okay, then probably we need to give them chance a bit later. Uh, so which floor should I go now?
13th floor, because
Probably.
called them a bus.
Okay, okay. Then Ustad has prescribed for 13th floor. Then moves. Let us move with that and hope it will work.
Sorry, 13th floor. I love you guys.
So 13th floor. Now it's your opportunity. So no. 13th floor. I hope you can hear us.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. All right. I'm extremely happy to being able to talk with you and being able to be a part of this beautiful gathering. Well, I have become a father just 5 days ago.
Congratulations.
Allah has blessed me with a beautiful daughter. My question
Mashallah.
is, would you please shed some lights about from when or how I can start this Islamic education of my daughter? And also another thing, how can I balance between Islamic education and the secular education in the future or in the long run? That's it.
I think the
That's
best
it.
way
That's it.
I think the best way to give your daughter and our children a good Islamic education is to actually become an ardent student of the Quran and of the Prophet's life yourself. And as she's growing up, to share um, good things about Allah first. Like the warning I will give everybody. I've said this in previous lectures, but I'll mention briefly now. I don't think it's healthy to teach children stories of the prophets where nations got destroyed, because those stories were revealed in Mecca to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when the Quraysh were acting like those nations. So Allah terrified those people by giving them those stories. And we often think that we should tell our children the story of Nuh and Lut and Salih and Shu'aib alayhim salam when they're kids. And in their mind, it just becomes this picture of Allah just destroying nations all the time. So they're psychologically, they develop this connection between Allah being a destroyer, right? But the first impression you want to create of Allah in a child's mind as they're growing up is just remembering Allah with all the good things. When you're eating food, doesn't Allah love us so much? Look at the food He let us have. Doesn't Allah love us so much? Look at the beautiful hand He gave you. Doesn't Allah love us so much? What a beautiful night. Look at that moon. Look at this leaf. Look at this. Look at that. constantly associating beauty and goodness and gratitude with Allah. Because more important than Islamic education, in my opinion, is an Islamic worldview, a spiritual worldview. And you can help develop that in your child when you're just talking about that all the time. When our kids are raised and they're hearing parents talk about is money and drama in the family, and this one's cousin said this and this one did that, and then that's what they're growing up with. That's their biggest influence. But when they're hearing you guys talk about Allah, that is a more powerful education than your child learning tajweed and memorizing Quran and studying Arabic and studying fiqh and studying hadith. They can study all those things but still not have the personality Allah wants them to have, right? So the Islamic sciences are actually easy. Now, as far as which age do you want to give them a formal education, in my opinion, children have different aptitudes. If your child you see has a good aptitude towards learning and memorizing, then early on you can give them an education yourself also in just reading properly, lovingly teach them how to read, lovingly teach them how to memorize some surahs, right? And as they're doing that, balancing deen and dunya is actually the name of the game. I've never studied Islam full time, ever. That's a reality. I'm just letting you know. I have always carried the responsibility of, providing for my family, working full time, and studying the deen, and exercising, and trying to maintain, relationships with my friends. You make learning Islam a part of your life. And that's the impression we want to give our kids. Learning our deen is a part of their life, just like brushing their teeth is a part of their life. Just like, sleeping habits are a part of their life. Learning habits are a part of their life. When you do that, Islam doesn't become a specialized thing. It just becomes a part of life. And when they see the parents incorporate learning about their religion as a consistent part-time part of their life, they're going to just embody that, because children model the behavior of their parents. And that will be the most successful thing you can do. Because if you give your kids full-time, exhaustive Islamic education, and you can, but then when it's over, it's over. And then it's not a part of their life, except now they feel like they know everything they have to know. It's not true. Even if they learned a lot about Islam psychologically and from a neurological point of view, their brains have not developed enough to maturely grasp what it is that they learned. That will happen over time, right? And if they're in the consistent learning habit, even the things they learned as kids, now they come back and revisit that in a more mature way. So that's my lifestyle recommendation for young parents, especially, to get into the mode of learning. So your kids they're raised watching you learn. They're raised doing that, Thank you, 13th floor. It was really nice to hear from you. And congratulations on the baby daughter.
And we also congratulate him for being a father, and also for being a father of a daughter. That's
yes, mashallah.
Most best part, to have the first kid as a daughter. And alhamdulillah, I have got these blessings from Allah as well.
Mashallah, mashallah, mashallah.
So moving on to the next question from third floor. You can ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ustad Nouman Ali Khan.
Hey,
how are you? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. This is really amazing. I have always watched you on the screen. I have never interacted with you. So
well, now I'm watching you on the screen.
Really amazing, and I would really like to thank this university and you that you have given us this great time, and for the first time in Bangladesh. Thank you so much. So I would like to. So I would like to ask a personal question. I think that many teenagers right now are having this issue. I come from a family who basically loves music. From my childhood, I was into music. My family used to listen to the classical music and everything. So from my childhood, I was into it. And after that, I had many instruments in my family. And I started learning that, and ultimately I went into a band. And when I was in the 10th grade, then I formed a band of myself, and alhamdulillah, I have left that life behind. I have known the truth about life, about Islam, and still trying to be a practicing Muslim. But the thing is that I have heard that music, if a person has music in their heart, Quran will not affect in their heart. So my question towards you is that how can I like get away from that, because that life still haunts me. Music is still in my heart. I think many of these teenagers have the same problem right now. And as I go into the universities that I study, everywhere there is music. There is like people are talking about movies and stuff. And you cannot just if you like travel in Dhaka in Bangladesh, there is music everywhere, and that still affects me. And I have tried listening to the Quran. I have tried reading the Quran a lot, and but I still don't think that it is not affecting the way that you before starting the lectures you said that it is a profound mind opening for everyone. I am not having that. So what can I do? And if I can do that, how can I stay consistent to that? Thank you so
Right. What's your name, young man?
much. My name is Jihad Hussain.
Jihad Hussain, thank you for your wonderful question. So let me start by saying that these are two separate issues. And the idea that if you have music in your heart that the Quran will not enter your heart, I disagree. The Quran will enter any heart that is sincere. And there's nothing that, you may have been exposed to that will prevent from the word of Allah, impacting your heart. Now, why you're not getting impacted by the Quran as you may want to, may have to do with the approach you may be taking to study the Quran. If you're just be patient with yourself and you try to take a systematic approach to studying the Quran, not just trying to read a translation, because frankly, when I first read the translation of the Quran, it was hard to connect with. I didn't know how to relate to this book. So a lot of my work has been focused on trying to make the Quran as relatable as possible, so you actually get an appreciation of what Allah is saying. So using my lectures as a crutch almost to get to be more exposed to the Quran might help in your quest. On bayinatv.com, if you can't afford the subscription, that's completely fine. Shoot me an email, arabic@bayina.com. I'll make sure you get a gift account. Go on there and you can start listening to the brief translation of the Quran that I've done that is supposed to present the Quran as a conversation, and inshallah it will have an effect. The effect that it had on me, I'm hoping it has on you. Now let's talk about music a little bit. You guys know that I'm not a mufti and I don't give fatwa, and I'm not in a position to give fatwa. All I can tell you is that this issue is not as black and white as some people present it. Even among the fuqaha, even among people that are from the subcontinent, like the subcontinent, South Asian subcontinent, majority of the people in this region are Hanafi in their school of thought. The Hanafi school itself has a lot of variation on its approach to music. And the evidences have been evaluated by different scholars and they have reached different conclusions. What I do believe is, let's start with what everybody agrees on. Overindulgence, consumption of anything is unhealthy in our religion. That's number one. And there are other principles, like shamelessness is unacceptable in our religion. Alcohol is unacceptable in our religion. When you said you were in a band, well, the band life comes with a certain few other things. It comes with alcohol. It comes with drugs. It comes with the party lifestyle. It comes with, promiscuity. It comes with those things. That's just part of the music scene, right? So you walked away from all of that. And that's a component of music that is clearly and absolutely haram. But this is one of the things I didn't talk to you about in my original lecture. What I really want for us to do as an ummah, and you as a young generation, is to develop an understanding of the Arabic language. Let me tell you why. Because then you can do genuine research into any such topic and make your conclusions yourself. You can read scholarly work about why somebody thinks music is haram and why somebody thinks it's not haram and what the limits are, and come to a conclusion intellectually, instead of just hearing a fiery speech about, this or that or the other. So even though I don't give a fatwa, I'm transparent enough to be able to say this is not an agreed upon issue that the entire ummah agrees music is haram. That was never the case. Ibn Hazm actually made a pretty convincing argument about it not being haram, and others made a criticism of his argument. That's a back and forth that's been going on. At the best, you could say it's a gray area, right? But there are components of it that have always existed. They've always existed, and it's inescapable. And you don't have to unnaturally feel guilty if you're in an elevator and it's going ding, 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 like astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. You don't have to do that. Relax. It's okay. Or if you listen to the news and it says, dun, 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 oh, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, I can't watch the news anymore. No, you can watch the news. It's okay. You didn't go to a club and are listening to thumping music and, that's not what's happening. And that's not our religion ever. That wasn't our religion ever. So my advocacy is for you to not just accept oversimplistic conclusions, to develop an intellectual ability. And I genuinely pray that all of you don't ever take anything I say at face value or anybody else. I say that you guys have to rise to the occasion where you can study these issues yourself and you realize for yourself where and what you should be giving up for good and where there is some room for you. And absolutely do I disagree that if you have music in your heart, that you can't have Quran in your heart. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. You will have Quran in your heart, and you will have the best of it, and may Allah protect you from the fitna that comes from the music life. I pray that Allah protects you from that. Okay? So, I hate going in that direction of the fatwa direction, but I would encourage you to listen to someone like Dr. Akram Nadwi, who I admire. I've mentioned him before. He's at Oxford University. He's a hadith researcher, because the music issue is never directly talked about in the Quran at all, right? And there's only one ayah about which there's an opinion of a sahabi that's been mentioned. So no explicit mention about music has ever been made in the Quran. This is a hadith-related issue. And the hadith analysis, one of the best scholars that I've come to appreciate whose work is Dr. Akram Nadwi. And I hope you guys can take advantage of some of his work, inshallah, and benefit.
Okay. So we also ask the mercy of Allah, so that Allah helps you to get rid of from music and from fitna of surrounding things carefully. And moving on to the next question from the same floor.
Wait, if you give all the questions to this floor, when am I going to go to sleep? What are you trying to do?
Is there opportunity today?
Yeah, what about my opportunity?
to make you awake whole night?
No. There's
Yeah.
also something called the morning. Go ahead.
So we will take like four more
I'll
questions
take
from
four more
here.
questions, so
and-
you guys decide
yeah.
where you want to do that.
Yeah,
Four
more questions in total. Yeah, and 14th floor questions will be covered from here as well.
Yeah.
And so the last segment will be from 10th floor. Inshallah.
Okay.
So next question, please.
Next question. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Kapsar Ahmed Topo. I have a question. I'm practicing. I'm planning to go west. I'm a little bit afraid to go west because of their culture. I want to practice Islam there. So give some guidelines how to maintain life, and then they relate to Islam. How to practice in Islam in West, especially youth. How to farm of on them.
Where in the West are you going to go?
Especially German or European countries like.
Okay. So our religion, we call it the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Millata abikum Ibrahim. Ibrahim alayhi salam was the only young Muslim in his entire society. He challenged his father, he challenged his entire society. And from him began the legacy that we now follow and call Islam. Our Islam is not supposed to be strong when we are around other Muslims and weak when we are not around other Muslims, because we are the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. In fact, Muslims are supposed to go where there is no light, so they become the light. So they become the source of goodness. Yes, being in a negative environment can impact you, but it can impact you if you have a weak mindset, if you have a weak commitment to what it is that you believe. If our Islam is as strong as the Hindus' Hinduism and the Buddhists' Buddhism and the Christians' Christianity, because they were raised around a Christian family. They were raised by a Hindu family. They saw the temple every day. And then they came to America and they forgot about the temple, right? Then we just have cultural Islam. That's all we have. Now we're not in that cultural environment. We don't have Islam anymore. But if you have an intellectual grounding in Islam, if you are deeply convinced of the truth of this faith, then it doesn't matter where on the planet you are. Inna ardi wasi'atun fa iyaya fa'budun. My earth is vast, worship only and only me. Rasul sent some Sahaba to live in Abyssinia. That's a Christian society. Their Islam was never compromised, even though that society does not believe in the values of Islam. But their Islam was never compromised. Why? Because they have this something inside them. The outside world will actually, we keep thinking the outside world is going to shape what is happening inside. When a Muslim really internalizes their deen and has the Quran inside them, then what is inside them starts shaping the outside. Instead of influenced by the outside, we start influencing the outside. You understand? That's what I want you to do. I want you to really get a grounding in your faith so that wherever you go, you can handle it. Not only can you handle it, you become an ambassador of this deen wherever you go. And if you're afraid of losing your connection like that, that just means you have to become a more serious student of your deen. You have to really get an intellectual grounding of why it is that you're Muslim. Why is your Islam weaker in one place and stronger in another place? Because Allah is your Rabb wherever you are. The Quran is your book wherever you are, right? So that's my advice to you. Really contemplate what I've said, because society and the place you are should not affect your deen. It should not affect it.
True. So moving on to the next question, and I would also request the participants to ask questions in brief, because you should also consider that it's deep night there in Texas. So please go ahead with the next question.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. My question is, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps on repeating the same story in the Quran again and again? And my second question is, when are you coming to Bangladesh in person?
Okay. The second question, I don't know. The first question, stories. Let me explain this to you, because you guys are college students. You guys have written papers, yes? You guys write research papers, term papers, things like that. And in a term paper, you have to cite case studies. Example 1, example 2, example 3, right? And your case studies have to be relevant to your conclusion, the thesis of your paper. The surah of the Quran has a thesis. Every surah has a thesis, has a purpose. And Allah will take components of different stories that come together for the larger thesis of that surah. When he goes to a different surah, he will cite the same story, but he will cite a different element of that story in that surah. Why? Because that element is furthering the thesis of that surah. So actually, the Quran is not arbitrarily repeating stories in the Quran. Every surah has a target, has a goal, has a certain kind of message, has a certain kind of teaching. And the stories that are cited, they're never complete except for Surah Yusuf. They're always partial. And the partial components that are strung together are because they together form a component. They form an understanding. So, and that's how you have to understand the layout of the stories in the Quran. That is why they're not in chronological order. That is not why they're not in thematic order. That is also why they are not one time. Why are they repeated? Because the point wasn't to tell the story. The point was to further a particular concept. And so the concept may be reinforced a certain way here, and a new concept is being introduced from the same story in another place. Okay, so that's kind of the basic formula for placement of stories in the Quran.
Well, so moving on to the next question, and probably now we are getting questions from 14th floor. Yeah.
Okay.
From the same.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. I'm really happy having the opportunity talking to you today, and I really hope you will come to Bangladesh someday.
Me too.
So my question is, how to control temptation in this constant lustful world? I mean, so many medias are there, and so many forms of lustful events are bombarded to this young generation, and how to stay focused. Just like a
I could. The voice was going in and out. Can you repeat the question for me, Faisal?
how to con- how to control temptation in this constant lustful world. I mean, there are so many medias in this era, and so many news and events are bombarded to this young generation. So, how to stay focused and how to control this lustful situation? Just like
Yeah.
Have you got the question? So it
So
is just how to control temptation.
yeah, yeah. Just be busy. Get off the devices. Get off the devices and become productive. And become productive. Get a job quickly, so that the moment you get a job, find yourself a good wife and get married. That's the Islamic formula. Islamic formula is man up early. Don't wait until you're 35 to get married. Don't wait until you're 28 to get married, because you've been dealing with temptation for what, 10 years? You're a human. You're a human being. Allah created you with a fitrah. You're not supposed to be depriving yourself in that way, which means you're supposed to, Rasul says, whoever of you becomes capable should get married. The fact is, when our youth are just playing Fortnite and Roblox, or when they're just hung up on, they're making saving money to buy a PS5 or something. That's all they're doing with their life, and they're just wasting their life on social media, and they're never growing up to become men. And when they're not becoming real men, they can't get married soon enough, and then they're gonna have temptation issues. Become entrepreneurial, start a business, get a job, get an internship, gain experience, become a professional early and early and early, and show yourself to be an independent young man. And inshallah, you will attract good good spouses for yourself, and you will make a good selection and be able to live a life where that temptation turns into ibadah. You can live a life of halal, but work towards that. Make that a goal. And instead of, because the temptation is only going to get worse. It's just only going to get worse, and it all boils down to how you're using your free time. And I pray that you really internalize that, inshallah.
Okay. So there is only one more question from the boys. So that's the last question. So please go ahead with your last question.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. I love you so much for Allah. I have learned so many things from your lectures. I want to learn Quran and want to be a da'i of Islam, because there are so many beautiful things and miracles in Quran. So regarding this matter, I need your advice and guidance. Thank you.
I have only one advice for you. Al-ina'u bima fihi yandahu. The Arab has a saying, a container pours out what it contains. I never wanted to be a da'i. You know that? Never. You know what I wanted to do? I just wanted to study Quran. I fell in love with this book. And you know what happened? I love it so much that I can't help but talk about it. My advice to you? Dive into Allah's book. Just dive into this book. Not because you want to talk to other people about it, because you want to talk to yourself about it. You want to learn what Allah has to say. You want to explore His words. You want to experience His wisdom. And when you taste it for yourself, what will come out of you will be so genuine. What comes out of your heart touches other hearts. That's my only advice. That's my genuine only. And Allah will open all the doors. When you come to His Quran with sincerity, all the doors will open. Arabic will become easy. Memorization will become easy. Tajweed will become easy. Speaking will become easy. I almost failed public speaking class in college. I almost failed public speaking class. Public speaking class. Me.
True.
Yeah. Got too nervous. I used to get nervous. I was very people didn't hear my voice in high school. One time I spoke, and one kid in class said, "Oh my God, he has a voice." I was the quietest kid in class. You know what gave me a voice? The Quran did. The Quran changed my personality completely. I was a completely different person. I don't even recognize myself. That's what Allah's book did. it made me love what he's saying so much. I couldn't help but tell somebody else, hey, do you know what he says? It's so amazing. You know, and I'm still as fascinated by Allah's book as I was when I started. And anybody who, if you feel that I'm doing something good and you'd want to do something like that, just take my advice. Just dive into Allah's book. Let it do the talking. Inshallah. Okay.
Alhamdulillah. And
I'm going to take
probably
how many questions is he trying to? You guys trying to
no,
kill me?
the questions from the boys
You guys
floor
gonna
are
kill me. My
over.
wife is going to kill me. Something's going to happen.
Yeah. good opportunity is there. So
40
the
minutes
boys
ago,
floor
she gave me a look and went. She just gave me a look. You know what that means?
Only one time?
Yep, only one time. Yep, that's
Probably
enough.
that should be enough.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we are moving on to the ladies floor now, and here we'll get the questions from the ladies corner, and probably they have good number of questions, but we will cover only a few
they never
selected
have
questions.
any questions. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So please go ahead with your questions. This is the opportunity for ladies.
You're muted. There you go.
Assalamu
Walaikum salam.
My name is Rosanna, and this is a huge opportunity for me to be able to ask you this question.
Your voice is very low.
I have friends who tell me a lot of their problems, and mostly a lot of them are about marriage, that their parents have, forced them into this marriage because of could be because of social norms, but it's like, no, the boy, he's educated, he's got money, house, good job, everything.
Yeah.
So my question is, to what extent do parents have the right to force children into a marriage, or a marriage with a person not of the, I'll say specifically, daughter's preference?
Okay, you're done? Okay, that's it, right? Okay. In Islam, let me be explicitly clear. No one has the right to force anyone to marry anyone. And if a marriage takes place in which the two persons getting married did not act of their own 100% free will, then that marriage is invalid. It does not constitute a legitimate marriage in the sight of Allah. This is actually a fundamental principle. The only contracts, because marriage is a contract, the only contracts that are valid in our religion are the ones that someone enters into of their own free will. Now, parents should be obeyed, but parents have no right to force any daughter to marry someone she doesn't want to marry. Parents also don't have any right to guilt a daughter into marrying someone because it's such a good blessing and you're turning away the blessing of Allah, and it's haram for you to turn that blessing away. All of that is nonsense. It has nothing to do with Islam. It's actually a mockery of Islam. Allah came to liberate humanity and liberate individuals, and it did not turn children into slaves. It did not. This is a violation of our daughters, and it must stop. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it came from some other religion, but it's not Islam. It has nothing to do with Islam, and on top of that, it is an attack on Islam. It is an absolute attack on Islam. The nikah in such a case is actually, it's scary that those nikah can be considered batil. They can be considered null and void because they were not done of a woman's own free will. Now, a wali should be involved, meaning when a girl wants to get married, her family, her guardian should be the one to approve. But actually, in the end, it is her desire to get married. She says yes, she says no, and that no has to be genuine from her. Not only that, the mahr, how much is going to be given to her as dowry and when it is going to be given, is to be understood between father and daughter. And let me go even further. I don't care if I get in trouble for saying this because the truth is the truth. Sometimes parents are abusive. Sometimes fathers have never paid a single bill in the house. Sometimes they have a drinking problem. Sometimes the mom is getting 2 jobs and taking care of the house, but when it comes to the marriage, he says, I am the wali, I'm going to decide who you marry and who you don't marry. If a father hasn't paid the finances of the house and has not protected the household, has not played his role as a father in the household, he has zero right to interfere in who the girl is going to marry. Zero. Because you become the wali of a household when you protect that household, when you take care of that household. If you're an abuser yourself of that household, you don't get to take one part of Islam and say, I have the authority now. You do not get to do that. This is a serious, serious matter. And I don't want my words now can be taken by somebody and misused in some specific family situation, right? And they can say, Nouman Ali Khan said, I don't have to listen to you. That's not my problem. That is your problem. You're manipulative if you do that. You have a problem of cherry picking and hearing something and taking the part that serves you and using it incorrectly. That's between you and Allah. You must be really brave to deal with Allah that way. But fear Allah, all of you. And I'm just telling you, parents, I'm talking to the parents now. Fear Allah. If your daughter says she does not want to get married, I don't know how you are going to answer Allah on Judgment Day, because this is no different than burying your daughter alive. This is not any different. I absolutely hold that view. I am a father of daughters, and I say that with 1,000,000% confidence. Now, may Allah never make me a father like that. I will go even a step further. If my own daughter came to me, my sister came to me and said, I'm in a marriage, you guys got me married, I went along with it, but now it's abusive. He's hurting me, or his family's humiliating me, and I'm putting up with all kinds of stuff. And what should I do? I fear Allah if the words ever come out of my mouth, hey, listen, it's going to make the family look bad if you get divorced. How are we going to show our face to the community? Who's going to marry your younger sister? Have some shame. Put up with it. It's okay. I got they'll say, no. We all have to put up with that. It's okay. It's a part of life. It's a part of what life? Mushrik life? Kafir life? Because Islam came as a rahmah. Islam came as a rahmah. You as a father should be ashamed of yourself that your daughter comes to you seeking your protection from an abusive husband, and you say, no, go back and get abused again because it'll make me look bad. I don't even know why you had a child if you don't know what a parent is, what it is to be a parent. Protect your daughters, protect your sisters. And if the fathers are not going to do it and the brothers are not going to do it, then the uncles should do it. The grandparents should step in and protect those girls. They should do that. So our religion is a liberating religion. It is not a cage. It did not come to oppress anyone, especially not women. In fact, it was a revolution in which Allah liberated women like never before. And the tragedy of our times is we terribly misuse Islam and the word of Allah, and misuse the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, and come up with a narrative of Islam that has to do with marriage, with divorce, with mahar, with all of these things that have nothing to do with Islam. It's crazy to me. It boils my blood. Like, I know I haven't been upset this entire lecture, but this is upsetting. And I thank you for asking this question. Really, thank you. Because the girl being pushed, I think of her as no different than my own daughter or my own sister. Why should she be put in that position? I will fight tooth and nail so she doesn't have to be put in that position. And any parent, with all the things Allah says about parents should be honored and parents should be respected, yeah, but parents shouldn't assume that there's some kind of God that should be worshipped. They should watch themselves. Allah made you responsible for this child. He did not make you the owner of this child. I don't know what religion that is, but it's not Islam. Sorry I got mad, but this is angry worthy. Thanks for your question.
So thank you. So moving on to the next question, and we have 5 participants to ask question in total remaining.
Okay.
Yeah, next one, please.
Will you hear me?
Barely.
Please be loud.
My question is to me. I am devoted Muslim, so already 2.5 years have been gone.
MashaAllah.
So now this is the time to express it to my family, because when I stay with my family, I cannot properly obey all rules of Islam. Like I cannot take salat, So it's really a big trouble to me right now. So my question is to me, in that case, how can I convince my parents that this is the real, or this is the honest and right way to lead life?
It may not be easy right now to do that. I think what you need to do right now, at least, is just pray your fard prayers. Don't leave all of the extra prayers, the sunnah prayers for now. Just pray your fard prayers. Pray the shortest surahs that you know, and pray it in a corner for a couple of minutes before anybody finds out. If they are walking around, then you can pray. Allah says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. When you're in a state of fear, you can even pray while walking, while on a camel, while riding. So that means that you don't have to do the motions of the prayer, the normal motions, if you're in a state of fear. Right now, because it's only been a couple of years and they're still in shock, they think you're going through a phase and you'll go back to normal, right? So I think what you just need to do right now is to continue to learn your religion, to not, push them into conflict more. If they ask you about it, you should be able to answer intelligently and say, this is a choice I've made. I'm never going to change it. But we don't have to debate it. We don't have to argue about it. That's okay. But right now is not your job to convince them of Islam, because that will make them even more aggressive. That time for that, inshallah, will come when the relationship settles down a little bit and things normalize. And maybe they should see now, because you've become a Muslim, they should see better manners from you. They should see more patience from you. They should see more kindness from you than they ever saw before. So they associate Islam with a better version of you, instead of associating Islam with arguments, right? So that should be your only focus, being the best, kindest, most patient daughter you've ever been in every way. Inshallah. May Allah make it easy, and may Allah guide your parents.
We also ask Allah's merciness to make your life easy, to reveal this great truth that you are into in, and may Allah also help your parents to understand. Moving on to the next question. On behalf of the participant, please.
This question is from the audience, and she doesn't want to disclose her name. I'm reading from her chat. So, Assalamu alaikum. I have been sent a divorce letter recently. I've spent and wasted more than 7 years behind this nasty family. So please guide me and tell me something important which will give me sukoon and support. I'm physically ill from post-COVID symptoms and mentally in a very low state. Please make dua for me and guide me on what can I tell my sad parents. Thank you.
What I'm going to tell you is that sometimes Allah brings what looks like bad news, but maybe the best news in your life. Sometimes there are people in your life that are nothing but poison. And them pushing you away, maybe them doing you a favor, because you don't need those kinds of people in your life. And your parents, what will give them happiness is you being happy. And you clearly weren't happy in that marriage, so that's okay. If people don't, remember Allah's words. He says, when the two part ways, then each of them, Allah will give from His own vastness. You've just been given from Allah's vastness. So instead of other societies like Christian society or Hindu society, when somebody got divorced, it was like a black mark was put on them. They became cursed. They became the black sheep in the society. In the Quran, somebody who got divorced, Allah says not only it's okay, He says now I will open from my vastness for you in particular. What a merciful religion. What a profound religion. He takes something that culture considers something terrible, and He says, yes, people think it's terrible, but I will take care of you. So with an open heart and with a heart that turns to Allah with yearning, read Surah Al-Talaq, Surah number 65, read it with contemplation, and you will find a lot of comfort and healing in it, inshallah.
Inshallah. So moving on to the next question.
May Allah give you from His vastness like you never imagined before. Like you never, and
Amen.
may Allah give your parents peace of mind that you are now in a better state.
Amen. Amen. Because we can see lots of histories in the history of Islam, and even from the wives of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that divorced women are highly honored in Islam, and
That's
we
right.
have all sorts of respects for them as well. So if situation demands, Quran and Allah has permitted for that option too. And obviously that's a test and trial for His servants from Allah, and we should have patience and sabr to overcome the stress, to actually overcome that trial, so that we can pass with good marks.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next question.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Can you hear me?
Walaikum salam, I can hear you.
My name is Nusrat. I'm going to ask you a personal and a very heavy-hearted question, and I'm scared myself because I'm talking in public for the very first time. My loved one, one of my loved one, had committed suicide, and I was witness of it. I want to ask you what the Quran and the Hadith says about committing suicide, and does Allah forgive that sin, and are we allowed to ask forgiveness in behalf of them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Thank you.
I will tell you what I understand of it. Nowadays, we know things about mental health that we didn't know before. And we know that in our deen, when people are suffering from some kind of mental disability, mental disorder of any kind, that they may not be mukallaf, they may not be responsible for their actions. I'm terribly sorry to hear about the loss in your family, and that this person was brought to that point. I don't think that you should be thinking that you cannot pray for this person, or you cannot ask for Allah's mercy for this person. And we just ask Allah that He knows what we cannot know, right? He knows what we don't ourselves know. And to make an oversimplified assumption based on some hadith, because the Quran never talks about it. So there are some hadith that may talk about it, but even those hadith are highly contextual. So making a generalization is problematic, in my opinion. And so I would not feel hesitation in making dua for a loved one, even in that circumstance. So I pray that you find healing in that, and I also pray that other people that are thinking about that are thinking about ending their life because their circumstances are so dire, are able to speak about what it is that is hurting them, and we're able to listen as an ummah to what is hurting them, because there's a lot of abuse that is happening in our families, in our society, that is unbearable. And the thought of suicide itself is not an evil thought. It's a human thought, because even Maryam salamun alayha said, Ya laytani mittu qabla hadha. If only I could die before this happens. She was wishing to be dead before people were accusing her of having an illegitimate haram baby. She was wishing death herself. Humiliation can be a very powerful motivator to even end one's life, right? So we, as a Muslim society and as a society of human beings, our deen is beautiful, but it's built on top of decent humanity. Like if you're not even a decent human being, then you can't be a good Muslim. So Rasulullah was already on the fitrah, and then he was given Islam, right? So the problem now has become, we're not even decent human beings anymore. We're not empathetic. We're not trying to understand somebody else's pain. Our own family members come to us crying with a problem, and we say, what is wrong with you? Don't talk about that. And we dismiss their pain. So I pray that, we don't have to see tragedies like this. And we develop empathy. We develop the ability to hear somebody else's pain and their cries, and to be able to listen to them with an open heart, to have mercy for others, to have understanding of others' pain, instead of just pushing them away and say, oh no, everybody goes through that. Oh, you're just being too dramatic, And so I'm so sorry that you went through this. I can tell you, losing a loved one is an extremely, extremely painful thing. And losing a loved one because they were suffering and they ended their life in this way, Allah only knows where they were, mentally, where they were emotionally. But I pray Allah forgives them. I do.
Yeah, may Allah give you the strength to recover this huge loss. And also,
thank you for being so brave and asking.
Yeah. And it's true that it's becoming a growing concern nowadays, and we need to overcome from these tragedies. Like there should not be the solution. They should be allowed to speak out, and we should allow that environment so that they can come with any kind of problem, any kind of hurdles they are facing in their lives. They can share with someone. At least they can find at least someone to share with. Okay, moving on to the next question. Yeah, please.
There is another question from the audience. My father is in a relationship with another woman, but in front of everyone, he's a good person. What should I do now?
You should talk to him. You should just talk to him. And if he doesn't want to change his ways, then just keep a distance. You can't. We have a saying in Texas. I like it. You can only clean your side of the street. You can't control other people, not even your dad. And at one point, dads are not going to be able to control their daughters or sons. They're individuals. You're going to make your own choices. You have to stand in front of Allah. But if a loved one is doing something wrong, you have every right to confront them. I don't think you should be going around humiliating them, but absolutely you should be confronting them. Our deen doesn't want us to expose other people's sins, but also doesn't want people to just get away with what they're doing either. In a controlled way, in a responsible way, he should be confronted about what he's doing. And he should be held accountable, maybe perhaps within the family, you know?
Okay, so we are taking the last question. The last question from the ladies group.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. My name is Maimuna, and my question is how a person should behave on their first meeting with the potential spouse.
I don't know, normal? Just behave, be yourself. You don't have to have a special kind of behavior. I will give you some advice. People try to present the best version of themselves to a potential spouse. I think that's a mistake. I think you should present the honest version of yourself. Because this is not about impressing anyone. You're not going to impress somebody 10 years later. They're your family. They're a part of your life. It's better they know exactly who you are and how you are and what your temperament is. Within, of course, formal guidelines, but transparency is the most important thing. And what I said before in this QA session, being open about boundaries, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, a conversation about rights and responsibilities, real life situations, workplace situations, educational situations, children, in-laws, those kinds of subjects are important because this is where most problems happen, right? So it's good to have those kinds of very real, very mature conversations. And you will tell in 5 minutes even. I mean, I personally have a 5-second rule. I can tell whether I want something or not. But with human beings, I have a 5-minute rule. Like within 5 minutes, I'll know if this is a reasonable person or I need to just, quietly make my escape. So it would be good to gauge a person's answers, be mindful of their demeanor, their body language, their tone. Those all of those things matter. Become a careful observer, inshallah. Thank you, everybody. You're muted.
Alhamdulillah. So in this way, we concluded the question and answer session for all the segments. And so I don't want to make it further, but just one very common query from most of the participants and for all those who couldn't participate. Just one thing that I'm not going to ask any specific question. Rather, I would request you to share something about you, about your personal life that is just about your family, your kids. You also talked them about regarding your session. Just a very brief that you feel comfortable to share with us, share with the audience. That's it.
Something about my personal life that I feel comfortable sharing to a worldwide audience?
About your kids, about your family, just whatever you like.
Okay. I discovered very late in life that one of the most valuable gifts you can have in this life are genuine friends, truly genuine friends they're happy when you're doing okay, they're happy at your success, and they are sad at your failure, and they're there for you in difficult situations, and you're completely safe to talk to them openly and completely. And I've had many people that I thought were friends in my life, but they weren't. They were just, sometimes you get people in your life that are friendly, but they're not friends, right?
True.
And when the situation arises, then you realize what they really are, right? But I'm very grateful that I actually have now in my life genuine friends. And those genuine friends are my best kept secret. They're just mine, and nobody knows about them. So I couldn't underscore the importance of that enough. Like, one thing I don't talk about, because it doesn't seem like it's important to talk about, but not for you guys, is that being in the position that I'm in, I don't see myself as a celebrity. I don't see myself as something special. I see myself as a normal person. But the world doesn't let me see myself as a normal person.
True.
So it makes it very difficult for me to have normal relationships. Because if I just meet somebody at the masjid and I just want to become friends with them, that I can do that, but they turn around and say, "Hey, you know who's friends with me? Do you know who's friends with me?" Right?
Yeah, people becomes crazy.
And that's no longer a genuine relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, they're not friends with me. They're friends with the personality that's online. They're friends with the persona, not the person, right? So in my position, it's really hard to have genuine friends, and alhamdulillah, I have that. And it took me a long time to have that, but I have it, alhamdulillah. So that's something personal that I'm grateful for, and I pray all of you have it in your lives, inshallah.
So, Nouman Ali Khan, thank you so much. I don't have words how I should express our gratitude on behalf of myself, on behalf of the University of Scholars, on behalf of Bangladesh, and on behalf of all the participants here, participated here, watching through, and will watch later. They were so excited with this event, and they will be excited sooner. And you have got this as well, that you have got the official invitation from all the people's heart that you should.
It's official.
Here
It's official.
later. Yeah, and we will be delighted to host you again soon, and we will be waiting for that.
Next time you host me, I'll be on the 13th floor.
Oh, great. We have no objection with that. So there's the last thing from our side. And
thank you everybody for your wonderful questions. I really had a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Make dua that as I head home, I'm safe. You know what I mean? All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.